Well, it is Good News Friday for sure. And there's only one person that I want to celebrate Good News Friday with every single week, and that's Larry Goldberg. Hey, Larry, I hear you had a good day too.
Hey, Randy, I can't put any oil on your troubled waters today. I mean, it's good news.
Good news. All right. Well, where I want to start today, I want to start with this idea. And I'm going to be going for a little bit here, so just hang in there. Elon crashed the stock when he bemoaned the economic future and the interest rates. He seemed quite conservative, and he even used his business history to note that he'd been chastened by the difficulty of past economic upheavals in his life. In fact, in the life of Tesla. He didn't want to be in that position again. So then we saw a lot of caution last year. No expansion, didn't increase the number of shifts, didn't increase the lines, slow down in the startups of all the facilities that were in line to be started up. And then you and Kathy believe we've been in rolling recessions for the past 18 months, and I wouldn't disagree. Interest rates have been high, but not crazy high. And I think it's arguable that we've seen slower auto sales, and that, makes sense why Tesla would have to lower their prices this last year. But with lower interest rates coming and more optimism, do you think that Elon will change his viewpoint, and potentially become more aggressive after this Fed decision?
No.
I set you up for a yes, and you give me a no. I don't know what to do. Okay, what do you think?
I think Elon's looking at the auto industry, looking through the lens of the auto industry. And if you look at the situation through the lens of the auto industry, it doesn't look great. Sales are down. Interest rates, while they may be moderating in some areas, they're really not moderating on auto sales. I think, people talk about electric EV sales going down, but all auto sales are on the way down. Used car prices have plunged. I think that any automaker worth his salt would look out at this landscape and say, I would be very cautious in this environment. Now, there are different horses for different courses. I mean, Europe is, I think, still in a state of recession. China, there may be green shoots. They talk about green shoots. Well, there may be green shoots in China, but we have to be a little cautious because they are not out of their real estate woes yet.
Right.
Back in 2014, I predicted a Chinese collapse due to real estate. Boy, was I wrong. But, it's a rolling, this is really, it's hanging on and hanging on and hanging on. So the question is, do they, how robust a recovery can they run? So, and Elon's very exposed to China.
Yep.
He's very exposed to Europe, and I'm talking about the car company now. I'm not talking about energy, and I'm not talking about, all the other businesses that Tesla has. And there are a lot of other businesses Tesla have, which are fantastic call options on the future. But in the car company, I think we have to see continued caution until we. So I'm not saying that Tesla won't do well. I'm just saying that I think Elon
So, Larry, I'm sorry, we had a little bit of technical difficulties there. So you were saying that Elon, you expect a good year, but that doesn't mean that because we've got the interest rate solved, that we've got free sailing for next year?
All I'm saying is I think Elon will remain cautious, because I think looking out from his viewpoint at the car horizon, that's what he sees.
Got it. All right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I'm kind of on the other side of that, as you could maybe tell by my introduction.
Yes.
So I'm thinking maybe he would at least, be shifting towards a little more optimism, and therefore be a little more aggressive about opening up facilities, or, adding additional capabilities in the current facilities. Boy, I'm just having all kinds of technical fun here.
Well, I honestly don't think that Tesla have slowed down. I think that people have misconstrued his relatively, downbeat remarks at the investor day, at the earnings call.
Oh, mm-hmm.
He was having a bad day. Let's see what he brings up with the next earnings call. I cringe when I go to those earnings calls because, Elon doesn't suffer fools gladly. I'm not calling people fools. I'm just, he doesn't do well in those calls, period.
Yeah.
And so I think that, but notwithstanding, I think there are going to be challenges on the auto side, which, are going to have to be met. And the thing about it is Tesla have got such great tools to meet the challenges. I'm not sure why they haven't employed them.
Right.
Well,
I'll slide in a quick thing right now that I'm thinking I'll do a little more on later. Elon has picked pay-per-click on Google and YouTube video advertising as his two things to start stretching himself into the advertising arena. I was thinking about that this morning. Those two are the most scientific ways you can advertise. When you throw something up on the Super Bowl, you don't know what the result's going to be. Even when you do regular print ads and et cetera, you're always trying to find ways to be able to get some kind of feedback from whether that thing worked or not, other than just 3 months from now, do we see more sales? But when you're doing pay-per-click and you're doing advertising on YouTube through the YouTube advertising approach, you get immediate feedback. You know what your numbers are. You know how many phone calls are coming in.
Yeah.
Everything there is extremely scientific. So it's not shocking all of a sudden. I was like, okay, that would be obviously the way Elon would feel most comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one of the things that I'm hoping to see, we had the conversation today on X, and I'm not sure you saw those posts, but Gary was in that conversation. I responded to him, but I really think they have an enormous opportunity on the leasing front.
Oh, yes.
Because of the three, the removal of the 7,500 rebate on the three. I think going into a leasing program on three that permits the buyer to buy the vehicle at the end of the period or on a particular basis, I think would be a huge value add. And I've been told before by Tesla folks, look, we've got all kinds of tools to deal with demand. And that was one of the tools that was, essayed to me. So I would really hope to see that, advertising or a more outreach, a stronger outreach program coupled with those kinds of incentives would be very good for them. But, there's no doubt there's a sales challenge. I remain optimistic simply because I'm, a pretty optimistic guy. If I were running the business, I wouldn't be as optimistic.
Okay. Well, speaking of optimism, we're only 20% away from 300 on Tesla, and only another 35% after that to the all-time high. Now, we've all seen Tesla this week move 5% in one day and more. So, and Tesla was at 410 when they had half the current sales and half the current earnings. So
yeah, but they had double the margin.
had double the no, not double, but they had a better margin. Yeah.
Well, they may not have had double the margin, but they had at least 60% higher margin.
That's possible. Yep. But they didn't have
And they appeared to be on track to that double the margin. Now, I don't know what the margin is going to look like this quarter, but we're told it's not great. Some people are saying it's really bad. I don't think it's slipped that much because China prices have been pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So I don't have insight into the German prices, but US prices haven't been bad at all. So I don't think it's slipped that much, given how much the supply chain folks have told us costs have come down.
Right.
So I don't think we've slipped on margin. I think we're going to have a good energy quarter, and I think we're going to have a great services quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows what the credits are going to look like. So on balance, I think we're going to be reasonable this quarter, but you look at the margin growth of the period you're talking about and the margin itself, and you think about what we were projecting by way of sales and margin, then you can understand why the price is where it is today. So I'm a lot less optimistic. Just as we're only 20% away from 300 and we're only then 30% whatever away from the all-time high, we're also only 20% away from 200. And from that point, we're only 60% away from the most recent low of last year. So I would be a little cautious about that.
This is good news Friday.
Damn, I got the wrong.
So, all right, on the good news front, Jonas this morning, he called Tesla. This is lovely. Tesla sits at the epicenter of a potential Cambrian explosion of technology, ushering in a new morphological era.
He nailed it. He nailed it. I mean, that's why I'm invested in this company. I'm not invested in this company because of auto gross profits. I'm not invested in this company because of the growth of the automotive market. I'm not invested in this company because of the models that they're bringing out. Not at all.
Yeah.
I'm invested in this company because it's a huge call option on the technology of the 22nd century that they're going to take us into the 22nd century. That's why I'm invested in this company.
Yeah.
And he nailed it. I read that and I thought, Adam Jonas, you made up for all your sins of the past.
Well, let's take a read, because here was the news. I thought there was news being made. This is it with the first sentence. According to our sources, Tesla CEO Elon Musk has been increasingly focused on Optimus at the Palo Alto Engineering Center in recent months. So that alone to me was news. Now, I've been saying for months that I believe that Elon, this was the most exciting thing, maybe other than X, that he's doing. I think he's probably pretty engrossed in X and in the new XAI. I think that's important to him because of the free speech ramifications and all the things he's trying to do that really are a level above, as you just pointed out a minute ago. Cars, free speech. I mean, you can't really compare the two in terms of the importance to the world. Yeah. But the fact that their resources, they have their sources, are saying that Elon is getting more and more focused on Optimus. I think that was huge. Let me just read a little more, Larry. Tesla first unveiled this humanoid robot on September 30th, 2022. The bipedal robot includes 28 actuators. Everybody knows all this. Let me skip above. According to Tesla CEO Elon Musk, Optimus sales will start within 3 to 5 years. Now, I think that 3 to 5 years was from the very first day we saw Optimus. So we would be well along into that 3 or 5 years at this point.
Yeah, we're about 1 year and 4 months, right, into the Optimus now. 1 year and 4 months or 1 year and 6, I forget now. But yeah, I mean, nobody can tell. 3 to 5 years, he was going to have full self-driving in, I don't know, 1911. So nobody can tell, but I'm impressed by the progress I see from the point of view of the physical device. Now I need to see a lot more on the software side, on the AI side, on the vision side, and on its ability to learn a function. And we have no real insight into that. We saw the egg being picked up, and that was impressive. How it learned that, we don't know.
Right.
But if it's monkey say, monkey do, or if it's monkey see, monkey do, I should say.
Right.
If it's monkey see, monkey do, then it's a huge win. But I think that's going to be the long pole in the tent, not the hardware. I know everybody's excited with the hardware, and so am I, but it's not the hardware. We know Tesla can deliver unequaled hardware. We know that we're on our road towards full self-driving, and we've seen the quality, that we've seen the progress made and the utility of full self-driving to date. How quickly the progress gets made of the bot learning and the bot doing, that's going to be the big issue.
And you actually might have said it half right there just a minute ago, Larry, by saying monkey say, because yes, we want it to be able to look and see and then repeat whatever it's looking at. But boy, if it can follow instructions verbally, that would be really good too.
Yeah, and we were just chatting with Scott this, I think yesterday, yeah, and he was talking about, for sure he'll be able to hear instructions. I'm also interested in if it's going to be able to speak.
Yes.
To communicate back. So yeah, this is you cannot get more exciting than this. I guess rockets to Mars is pretty, to me, it's more exciting. But I mean, who knew I would see all of this in my lifetime? It's extraordinary.
It is indeed. Well, okay, if we look at the parking lot today, Joe Tegmeyer is reporting that there were 40 Cybertrucks in the parking lot, 15 of which I think were being loaded into carriers.
Yeah.
Maybe, Larry, maybe there's a hope for you yet. Maybe you're...
if they give the trucks to the people in the order in which they were ordered, one of those would be mine.
I know.
I am jonesing so hard for that truck, man. I tell you, wow.
Yeah, you have a fellow traveler here in my home. My wife is so excited about, but she's a year out, but she's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. Well, okay, let's switch a little bit to the economy as a whole. The VIX is super low and getting lower. It went down again today.
Incredible.
Should be a signal that investors are calm and happy. When should analysts start caring more about the strength of the economy and earnings rather than Fed policy and bonds?
That's such a good question. And, I wish I knew the answer to it. Sometimes when things are this good, I get very scared. I mean, things are really good. I mean, the VIX is low, the market's showing, strength.
All-time highs.
Interest rates appear to be coming down. We've got what the Fed tells us is what the government tells us is full employment. But in my bones, I don't feel it.
I see. Okay. Well, we'll have your chiropractor called up right away. So, all right. Well, you mentioned China a few minutes ago. China numbers are strong for November. Industrial expansion up 6.6, even though retail continued to be soft. I feel really odd, really strange for me to be rooting for the Chinese economy. I'm not really that interested in their economic success, but it is a situation where they affect what happens in Europe. They affect what happens in the United States. I mean, it's a world economy now, and so if they fail, it's noticed elsewhere. So, what do you think?
I root for the Chinese. I like to see the economy do well. The better off they are, the less interested they'll be in building cheap stuff. They'll compete with us at the higher level. I think it's time for us to compete, get back and compete. And I think we should be good friends with the Chinese. I think this Taiwan thing is just very unfortunate. I wish they had a leader with a broader vision than this focus on some sort of, anyway, but I think the better they do, the better we will do. That's my honest opinion. And in any case, we've got to sell them cars. We've got a bunch of Teslas we need to sell them next year. And we want to sell them energy next year.
Right. Well, in other news, the services industry in the United States, it continued to expand. The S&P Flash Purchasing Managers Index readings were up, but manufacturing continued to contract. Industrial production numbers increased by less than expected.
Yeah.
And the increase was really just 100% the auto rebound. Because if you take out the auto rebound, then you got a negative 1%, 0.1% for the month. And then the Empire State Index came out, and that's a survey of the business conditions in the New York region, and it sank. Now, this has been up and down the last 2 months. So it was a strong positive last month. I think it was up about 0.9, and now this month down 14.5 to an index level of 14.5. So I don't know. I'm a little worried about maybe their numbers are problematic there. But overall, what do you think? Is manufacturing maybe going to pick up in the new year as we've had such good retail activity?
Randy, you're forcing me into a corner for Good News Friday. I don't hold that it's going to be such a great year. Let's see what happens over Christmas. I think if we have a really good Christmas, I think manufacturing will start picking up. People will have money. And, it doesn't look like the government's been able to forcibly remove cash out of people's pockets. So they'll have money, and people are people have got money. They'll spend. The question is, will they spend it on durable goods? Will they spend it on manufactured goods? And so much of our manufacturing now doesn't go into people's homes. It's so much of our manufacturing now. Well, our manufacturing has shrunk very dramatically, but it's in industrial air. It's to industrial customers, and in theory they should be okay because, for them, interest rates are softening. I think banks will perhaps be getting better. So hopefully, there are potential, green shoots. It's possible.
Mm-hmm. On another subject that's related, oil and natural gas prices continue to contract.
Yeah.
Both the United States and Canada are producing absolute records in both oil and natural gas. We are, and it's crippling OPEC's ability to be able to control pricing. All of that is excellent. I did see one report this morning where an expert was saying that she thought the numbers would potentially get back into the 80s in the new year when we get closer to the summer driving again, or spring and summer driving. I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with going back to the 80s. I just don't want to go back and test those hundreds again. Any thoughts at all with regard to these? Obviously the people in our community would like to see oil and natural gas go away completely. But that's 10, 15, when I say completely, out of transportation and energy completely. But that's 15 to 20 years away. What do you think about the near term, Larry?
Yeah, I am pretty optimistic that the price of oil is going to drift down into the 60s. I am, but that's because I'm not that optimistic about the economy. So
Okay.
cuts both ways.
That's right.
But you know, when it does drift down, I think it'll loosen. It'll definitely have a huge impact on the numbers. The numbers will have an impact on the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve will lighten up. You know, so I think all of those things are possible. The government is going to have to fill the reserve, you know,
Yeah.
the Strategic Petroleum SPR. They're going to have to. I mean, it would be folly not to, particularly if we're getting down to the 60s. Even at these prices, they should
Yes,
be.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Larry, I have a little advantage on you on the next subject matter because I do have a degree in psychology. So, you know, I probably have, you know, anyway. So according to the Kobayashi letter, Fed member Bostic sees only 2 cuts in 2024 and expects cuts to begin in the 3rd quarter, not in March. And then we also have President John Williams. How do they decide which ones are governors and which ones are presidents? Anyway, he told CNBC that it's premature to discuss whether it's time to cut interest rates. We aren't really talking about cutting interest rates right now. And this is like what just happened a couple of days ago. Well, we're talking about cutting interest rates. So what do you think psychologically, well, on any level that you wish to discuss it, what do you think the Fed is trying to do? Do you think they're thinking about it, or is this just different opinions from different guys?
Yeah. You know, I mean, if anybody needs psychological assistance, it's these guys who think that, you know, that we can put off cutting interest rates at the Fed. I mean, it's just crazy. You know, they're late, and yet they're, you know, they're sticking to their guns. I mean, the Fed, you know, I mean, we heard from the Fed at the official level just the other day in softer language than these guys are calling out. Now, whether this is a game they're trying to play, I don't know. They're not supposed to do that.
Right.
And these are their opinions. You know, John Williams saying it's premature, but the chairman of the Federal Reserve is actually doing that discussion that this guy says is premature. Come on. You know, can you certify them as crazy? Is that your degree? I mean,
So, so on the one level, like you say, I think, well, are they trying to play a game? You know, are they saying, yes, we're going to probably maybe cut, but please don't get out over your skis? I mean, it drives you crazy. I would like to think, hopefully, that it's just these 2 guys are more hawkish, and therefore they're just expressing their opinion. You know, and we'll see what happens. But we now have, I think, 70+% of the economists polled are saying March.
yeah.
Yeah, you're holding your neck, Larry. Like,
you know, Janet Yellen gave an interview to the Wall Street Journal today.
Okay.
And, you know, I've been saying on this channel that she's taking this victory, you know,
right.
I mean, she's on the victory march again. She's, you know, parading through New York, you know, getting all the paper tape. I mean, it's incredible. And yet, you know, I don't know. I just hope that they don't really do serious damage, but they could. I mean, you know, all our hopes for next year could be dashed.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take a completely different subject matter here, Larry. I think this just occurred to me while I was putting this together. So you're an absolute, maybe leading expert in the decision tree concept, how to set up a decision tree. Obviously, you've made your entire living, your entire life in software that does things with regard to these decision trees. Do you think that AI is or will be used to play the market? And are you playing around with AI in terms of trying to figure out the market?
Firstly, the answer is already being used to play the market and has been for some time because, you know, probability is at the heart of AI. And various means are used probabilistically to determine, what is likely to happen. Some funds have done incredibly well, harnessing, what was the predecessors to the current AI. And the predecessors to current AI, I mean, current AI, the de jure is the large language model, and it seems to be, the platform for a whole new set of a whole new AI generation. And so that less so, so the revolution that you're seeing right now doesn't really speak directly to the issue of potentially, trading and doing trading, but the last 20 years has been, the focus of, computer-generated probabilities of likelihood of trade opportunity. And some funds have done very well. I think it was Renaissance that, have had an incredible history of performance using probabilities. And some guys have blown up, There was, huge bankruptcies as a result of overplaying a hand. I don't see the large language models adding much to the conversation or to the science.
Right.
I tried to get a large language model this weekend, a couple of large language models, including Grok, to calculate a particular a mortgage. I was trying to determine what the initial value of a mortgage I was going to buy a piece of property, and I was trying to figure out where the mortgage started. But I knew the terms of the mortgage, and I knew the current balance. Just didn't know what. And I know what the formula is. I could have applied the formula, but thought I'd have some fun. I asked Grok, and I asked GPT 4.5, I guess, to give me the answer, and they both stumbled badly.
Wow, interesting.
And then I was able to prompt and reprompt and actually got an answer. It turned out to be not exactly right because it's a little bit, real mortgages are slightly more complicated than the standard off-the-shelf formula for a few reasons that Grok overlooked or that GPT-4 overlooked. So I don't think these are mathematical. These are models that can be used mathematically. Now they can instigate a mathematical model to be used, and they can also have some sense of which mathematical models or which, to do, but that needs a little bit of specialized training. It needs some, what we call, experts. So I don't think what you're seeing now is going to advance where we already are, which is pretty damn advanced in terms of being able to do some, fairly advanced mathematical probabilities on the market moving. But the market often will, destroy those calculations because some unknown variable will enter into the market. And that's always been the devil in terms of trying to determine what the market's going to do.
All right. Well, speaking of the market, let's find out what the pre-market is telling us right now. So we have Tesla, who ended up $2.45 for the day. I'm sorry, we don't have a pre-market on Friday night. What's wrong with me? So we'll only look at what the market did instead of what the pre-market is going to do. So we have Tesla up, as I said, $2.45. We have the Dow up 56 points, NASDAQ up 52, and the S&P down 36 cents. So again, we were talking earlier that the NASDAQ, this is more true to form, that the NASDAQ outperformed the Dow and the S&P, true to form over the last 6-8 months at least, and Tesla outperforming both. We have the Magnificent Seven, all but Apple were up. But Tesla was the only one that finished on the high. All the rest of them were tending towards going into the red at the end. And then finally, the Cathie Woods were all down today.
Wow, that's serious.
But they've had such a
good
run
run.
up. Holy mackerel! They've had 6 weeks of like this. So
Yeah.
a little bit coming off the top.
But I think it's fair to also mark today that we're at an a year low for the VIX.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the low point, I think, in the whole year. I don't know what the all-time low is, but it couldn't have been a whole lot lower than it is now.
Right. I think it might be near all times, Larry. I think I heard.
Yeah, no, it says the 52-week low is 11.81.
Okay.
I think, yeah, that's the 52-week low.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, we're now within a point of all-time low, I think. So,
how do you see the VIX? I haven't studied the VIX over the years. So when it's at this low, from my recent reading, it would suggest that the market is not very volatile. Therefore, people are comfortable. They're not making big bets, in a crazy way, but they're also not shorting a ton.
Options.
What does it mean to you?
It means that there's risk on.
Risk on. Okay.
Yeah, it means we're ready to rock and roll. That's really what I think how you should read it. That's my view. Worries me. I mean, when the market's feeling this good, I get a little worried. But people have made a huge amount of money when things are this good. I mean, it'd be interesting to see where Tesla goes from here. I'm seeing numbers for the quarter that are not good. People are estimating low numbers. I saw the first estimates came in below last quarter's earnings. I'm thinking that we're going to do much better than last quarter, at least 10 cents better, maybe 20 cents better. But, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, sure not. You only want to buy low.
Yeah. I'm fine with where the price is now.
Well, but there's
go $50 down or $50 up. I don't care.
And I agree with you that the long term is what's really important, and most of the people that are listening to this channel are probably in for the long term. But some who are in the audience right now like to play, like to get in and out, and I want to be able to speak to them as well. I also think there's just something, Larry, in our gut, in our makeup that wants positivity. We want to see momentum going up. We want to see Tesla continuing to succeed, and it's almost like a scorecard on the company that we love. And if the stock isn't doing well, it's almost like saying to the public still doesn't get it or whatever. But how come? It's like watching the darn Chargers.
Yeah, I think people want to win, and they want to see that they're winning at any given point. I just would counsel people to say that that's not what investment's all about.
Right.
Warren Buffett, who's a very famous investor, who I admire, but he hasn't done as well as the S&P.
Right.
He has always said that he's done his best when, famously when people are fearful.
Right.
And he is fearful when people are greedy, when things are going good. Right. So, when your stock is down and you have a really strong thesis on that stock, that's the time to be happy, not when your stock is up.
Well, let's look at the 10-year, Larry. It's down another 1.5 basis points today. And so it's sitting at 3.9. So I kind of think, this is beyond what either one of us, I think, thought was going to happen during this month.
Yes.
It's around where Gary Black thought it was going to be. I'm not sure he thought it would happen this fast. I'm now thinking it's gone about as far as it's going to go for the next 60 days. I don't see it dropping until we have more certainty on
Yeah.
that March decision. So it might pop up a little. It might come, might trade in a range.
Well, the daily and weekly and monthly announcements of the various indexes will have, a marginal impact on it. But you're right.
Okay. But in the meantime, here's the shocking part. The 2-year is up 5 basis points today. It is back to being 55 basis points higher than the 10. And so the inversion is spreading out again. I know we're looking at it in terms of one day versus another day, and lots of things could be causing that. But it just shocks me that people are not trying to grab onto the 2-year, the 3-year. I'm just surprised.
But why would they want to grab onto the 2-year, 3-year? Because, I mean, the real action is in the 10-year.
Yeah.
So as long as there's an inversion and the 10-year is high, but the 10-year is not that high historically.
Yeah.
The 10-year is, back to a reasonable level. So maybe there's a couple of points to be made in the 2-year. Maybe you're right.
And yeah, maybe. I don't know. I called the 10-year. I want to call the 2-year Larry. My partner of 30 years was Terry. So I don't know how I possibly came up with that. Okay, let's see the other stuff here real quick. Why my phone has decided it doesn't want to play anymore. So we're technical difficulties for the third time in this brief a bit of what in the world is going on. Do you happen to have the data handy, Larry, to get the oil and the other numbers? I don't know what my phone is doing. It's completely gone south.
Well, do we want futures? Well, today we're looking at $72. 1-day oil. We were at a low of 70. We opened at 71.91. We closed at the high, 72.56.
So that could be partially the dollar still affecting the price. I think the oil went up yesterday as the dollar collapsed. The dollar was seemingly fairly flat today, I think, Larry. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, actually it was flat. Drifted down a point.
Okay. And it's been way down all month. Finally, I think my phone is coming back into life here. I'm not sure. It's very, very weird. Okay. And then we had the Dow. That stuff is still available to me. We have the Dow. Oh, we talked about that at the beginning. That's right. So there's no change there. All right. So, Larry, what do you think? We got a Christmas coming.
Gold was up today.
Which was?
Gold.
Gold was up some today?
2031.
2031. So that's still in that range. It's been kind of in a 1920 to 2050, kind of in that range for a while now.
Yeah. It's only up $1 or $2.
Yep. And I noticed that copper, your favorite guide, was, I think it was down a tad today, kind of retracing.
Hardly moved at all. So I think everybody's waiting.
Yeah.
Everybody's, this is a game of waiting. It was almost no movement today.
So now we go into the Christmas, folks taking off, going on trips, not being as active in the market. We've got the government fighting over whether to spend money on the Ukraine or not, and continuing to hold people in Washington, D.C. because of it. Any thoughts about what you see over between now and the beginning of the year?
If the government doesn't come to a solution for Ukraine, and if there's a massive Russian victory in the Ukraine, I don't expect it to happen in December, but if the news comes down as bad, I think that could be extremely serious for the markets.
Mm-hmm.
I think a Russian victory would be very crushing to US interests, and I think the market would react very negatively. That's my view.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be the end of Biden. I mean, it would be the end of Biden. Now, whether it would be, victory for Trump, I don't know. There's such a narrow path for a Republican candidate who is not Trump that a loss of that substance could well usher him in. And right now he's beating Biden in the polls.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that may not have instant impact, while we sit here, and I think that that's serious though, in terms of next year.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting battle that's taking place. Certainly, as a conservative, the idea of pairing these two, controlling our own border at the same time that we're trying to control the Ukraine's border, it's a compelling idea, and it would be nice if there was a way that we could start to come together as a country with regard to what to do about immigration, because it's
it's a very good point. And I read today in the Wall Street Journal the conversation, the debate that's going on, and there's still a very significant number of people in the Democratic Party that do not see the logic of the argument. They're calling for policies which amount to an open border, and they just, I struggle to understand the logic behind it. I really just struggle.
Yeah, I hear you. I totally get it. All right, Larry, I want to let the audience know that there was a video earlier today that you were a part of also, where we took a look at the crashed Tesla Cybertruck, and then took it apart piece by piece and looked at what was inside and how things are organized inside the car. And I'll put a card for that right up here. So if people want to go back and take a look at that, they can. And then tomorrow morning, I am going to do a video where I am going to take a look at what I consider to be the new narrative. Not the Tesla narrative. I'll do that separately, maybe Sunday, maybe later. But tomorrow I'm going to be talking about what I think is the new narrative going forward in terms of the macro. And so that is what will be tomorrow morning. And then the rest of the programming over the weekend will be like normal, news on Saturday afternoon, and financial news week ahead on Sunday night. So Larry, as always, thank you for being here. Thanks for co-hosting. And
thanks very much. And just let me put a plug in for that video.
Oh, sure.
If you're a car nerd, if you're an auto guy, I would watch that video, because Ken really knows his stuff, and he's found a lot of really interesting pieces about that Cybertruck. So I would watch that.
Okay, there you go. Thanks for the additional pitch. All right. And to all of you at home, thanks for watching, and it's been great talking to you.